here and it's gone.
That's right. Amen.
There's only one thing that's going to last forever, and that's your soul.
Amen.
That's right.
And that's what we need to fight for.
That's right.
We as Christians think we have been made the morality police. We as Christians think we know everything there is to know about politics and everybody ought to listen to us. That's not our job.
That's right.
That's not what we're here for.
That's right.
I believe you should vote, follow your own convictions, pray about it, vote for who you believe God lays on your heart, and be done with it. And then try to win souls. That's what we are here for.
That's right.
Jude said that we should earnestly contend for the faith. We should earnestly fight for the faith, because there are those who have come in, who have disrupted it, who have changed it, who have made it a lie, who are living as hypocrites. There are those who have come in and brought in damnable heresy. There are those who have come in and brought in falsehood, and the church has said and said, well, that ain't so bad. Yeah, I can kind of wink at that. I'm not going to go to their church or anything, but, you know, it's all right for them. If it ain't according to that word, it ain't all right for nobody.
Amen. That's right.
There's a question. Am I my brother's keeper? Probably everybody's heard that question. You are. You are. If you see that they're living wrong, if you see that they're living in sin, if you see that they're going against the word, then you need to warn them. You are told to warn them. There are certain things that we will get all bent out of shape about, and we'll argue about, and we'll fuss about, and we'll fight about. But when it comes to the important things, we keep our mouths shut. Listen, 2 Peter chapter 2. There were false prophets also among the people, even as there shall be false teachers among you, who privily shall bring in damnable heresies, even denying the Lord that bought them, and bring upon themselves swift destruction. And many shall follow their pernicious ways, by reason of whom the way of truth shall be evil spoken of, and through covetousness shall they with feigned words make merchandise of you, whose judgment now of a long time lingereth not, and their damnation slumbereth not. This is the world in which we live. Do we understand that? Do we really know that? They have brought damnable heresies into the church. The church that Jesus purchased with his blood, the church that was founded on the rock, the church over whom he is the head, has been lumped in with everything else that calls itself church. And you know why? Because we sat around and kept our mouths shut.
Yeah.
That's why. We didn't raise a stake. We didn't rise up. We didn't speak up. We just, when you go out here and you talk to the world, you talk to people out there, they put us all in the same basket.
Yeah, they do.
If you say you're a Christian, if you say you're part of the church, they put us all in the same basket. They see no difference, and they don't see any difference because we don't show them any difference. We don't speak any difference. We need to rise up. We need to stand up. We need to speak up. We need to do as Jude said, and earnestly contend for the faith. We need to fight for this thing. We need to let the church of Jesus Christ rise to the top. We need to let it be seen for what it really is. We need to let the world know there is a holiness. There is a righteousness. There is one who will live above all this other stuff. But we are not doing that. I'm just trying to pick out a couple verses. I was going to read the whole chapter, but God's taking me a different direction. Listen, it's talking about the people who have come in and brought in damnable heresies. And it says, verse 10, chiefly them that walk after the flesh in the lust of uncleanness and despise government. Presumptuous are they, self-willed. They are not afraid to speak evil of dignities. That government, when they despise government, that's not talking about like the president and the Congress and all that kind of stuff. That's church government. That's the authority of the church. And I'm going to tell you something. The church should have authority, but it don't. The church doesn't have authority anymore because we let it be taken away from us. We let it be stolen away from us. We just let anything go just so we can all get along.
Yeah.
Whereas angels, which are greater in power, might bring not railing accusation against them before the Lord. But these, as natural brute beasts, made to be taken and destroyed, speak evil of the things that they understand not, and shall utterly perish in their own corruption, and shall receive reward of unrighteousness, as they that count it pleasure to riot in the day. Spots they are and blemishes, sporting themselves with their own deceivings while they feast with you. Listen, there's spots and blemishes. What kind of a bride is Christ coming for? One without spot and without blemish. We've let them spot the church. We've let them blemish the church. Having eyes full of adultery, and they cannot cease from sin, beguiling unstable souls, the heart they have exercised with covetous practices, cursed children. The covetous practice, and I could go on and on about this stuff, but you already know. That's all they're about. They want this, they want that, they covet this, they covet that. They're after stuff, they're after money, they're after fame, whatever it is they're after. They've forsaken the right way and gone astray, following the way of Balaam, the son of Bozor, who loved the wages of unrighteousness. Their wells without water, clouds that are carried by the tempest, to whom the mist of darkness is reserved forever. For whom they speak great swelling words of vanity, they allure through the lusts of the flesh, through much wantonness, those that were clean escaped from them who live in error. While they promise them liberty, they themselves are the servants of corruption, for of whom a man is overcome, of the same is he brought in bondage. So I want to ask you a question. I read this description here, you've read it, and I've read stuff in other places, and there's many places you can go. About these covetous people, and they're after filthy lucre and all these kind of things, and they're promising liberty, but they're bound themselves in all that. If somebody like that came to this church and wanted to join this church, using this description, they're unstable, they're covetous, they're faking it, they're feigning it, they're all this kind of, would we let them join? But we're allowing all these people to say they're a part of the church that we are a part of. And I know we can't go run them off. We can't tar and feather them. We can't ride them out of town on a rail. We can't do all that. But we can stand up and speak up about the truth of the church of Jesus Christ. I am telling you something. I go back to what I said about your parents, your spouse, your children. As somebody besmirching them and talking down about them and saying all kind of bad, you wouldn't stand for it. You would defend them to your last breath. But what are we doing for the church of Jesus Christ? We're letting them believe all that is true. We need to show them there are some who are not in that. There are some who are not like that. The true church of Jesus Christ is not all that. The whole bottom line, the point to this whole thing, and I know I've jumped around, it's just so much in my mind and trying to get it all out. We are in the last days. I read you all those things to show we are in the last days. The scriptures I read you in Timothy, he said in the last days this will happen. The time would come when this would happen. And the other stuff that I read you, and what Peter's saying here, there will be false prophets among you, and all these things would come to pass. I want you to really understand the seriousness, the urgency of the hour, how late we are into this thing. First, I want you to get that. And once you get that, then you need to ask yourself the question, now what should we do about it? And the answer to that is what Jude said. We should earnestly contend for the faith. And we should earnestly contend for souls. We should rise up. We should stand up. We should speak truth. We should get a little rowdy. Be a rebel. Go against the grain and proclaim Jesus Christ for who he is. And the reason that we are to do this is because souls depend on it. And again, as I already said, you are here for a purpose. You are here to win souls. This thing is about souls, and we are here to win souls. And if we're not winning souls, then what good are we? What are we accomplishing? What is our purpose? Hey, if we're not reaching souls, if we're not warning them, if we're not bringing them out of those churches and out of those places, you can go into Revelation, and it talks about the great whore, Babylon. You probably all know that there's coming a one world church.
Yeah.
You know what that one world church is going to be? I'll accept you for whatever you are. You accept me for whatever I am. We'll just all get along with each other. You want to have abortion, that's fine. You want to be gay, that's fine. It's all that kind of stuff coming together. It's happening now. It is coming together now. But in the book of Revelation, where it talks about that, God has a call. Come out of her, my people. Who is the voice of God? We are. We are his voice on earth. He left us to do this. And we are to be calling out to them, come out of that stuff. Come out of that. You need to come out of that. But we're not doing that. And again, I know I'm very repetitious. We do it in here. And it does absolutely no good. We sit in here and mumble and grumble and complain about the condition of the world. We sit in here and mumble and grumble and complain about the condition of the church. We sit in here and mumble and grumble and complain about what's going on out there. You ain't changing nothing by talking about it in here. Out there is where the work needs to be done. Out there is where we need to speak up. Out there is where we need to let these things be made known. Because I'm going to tell you something. You got friends, you got family, you got loved ones, you got people you know who are in there. Well, I think they're all right. I saw them go to the altar. I saw them get baptized. So I think they're all right. If they're not living this, they're not all right.
That's right. Come on.
Yeah, but they're not doing anything all that bad.
Huh?
They're not living this. They're not right. This is very strict. This is very right down the line. You can't waver one way or the other. It's got to be according to the Word of God. We know people who have been saved. But listen to this, at the end of this chapter, chapter 2 of 2 Peter. If, after they have escaped the pollutions of the world through the knowledge of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, if after they have escaped the pollutions of the world, if after they have been saved, they are again entangled therein and overcome, the latter end is worse with them than the beginning. People we know who have been saved and have fallen into this stuff are now in worse shape than they were before they ever got saved. It goes on, for it had been better for them not to have known the way of righteousness than after they have known it to turn from the holy commandment delivered unto them. But it has happened unto them according to the true proverb. The dog is turned to his own vomit again, and the sow is washed to her wallowing in the mire. People we know. Probably people in our families, people we care about, people we love, who were at one time born again, have been fallen under this stuff. And the reason they're falling under this stuff, because there's not a people who are standing up and proclaiming truth. And I don't think there's going to be too many who will. Because nobody likes confrontation, nobody likes contention, nobody likes to be looked down on, nobody likes to be laughed at, all that other stuff, so we don't do anything. I'm going to just summarize this and then I'll be done. This is the message that God gave me in a nutshell. We are in the last days. We ain't got a whole lot of time left. We see how the earthquakes, the famines, the pestilence, and all that's going on. We see, according to the word, how people would be in the last days. People are that way. Not only do we see how people will be, we see what becomes of the church. Where Peter's talking about false prophets coming in, where Jude's talking about people will come in and bring in damnable heresies into the church. All that is happening. And if you don't understand that, then you need to go and look and see what is going on out there and calling itself church and passing for the church. In the last days, all these things would happen. Not only would they become more frequent, they would become more intense. I'm going to tell you something. There are people who call themselves preachers and call themselves Christians who ain't afraid to say anything. They bring in the damnable heresies and the blasphemies and all those things. We need to understand the seriousness of the hour and the urgency. We are in those times. That is where we are. We are on the doorstep. We are in the 11th hour. However you want to put it, there's not a lot of time left. And because we are, Jude says that it was an urgency for him to write and say that we need to fight for the faith. That's our job. That's what we're here for. We are to fight for the faith. That's what we have been called out to do. That's the purpose of the church in the world. I've talked for I don't know how long about wanting to see the church get back to what the church once was. And you know, when I first started talking about that and I first started thinking about it and reading about it, I was looking at all the good stuff. The gifts and the blessings and all, but there's more to it than that. There's a job to do. You look at them, they went out and they proclaimed Jesus Christ and they proclaimed the truth regardless of the consequences. They went to jail, they got beat, they lost their lives, they did it anyway. And that's what we are being called to do, because look at what he said. If I tell you to warn them and you don't warn them, then their blood is on your hand. We have been told. We have been told. We have been called to do this job. If we don't do this job and they don't hear, then their blood is on our hand. But listen to this. If we don't do this job, people you know, people I know, people you care about, people I care about are going to hell. And lastly, they're making my Lord look bad. They're making Jesus look like some kind of, excuse me for saying it this way, but I don't know how else to say it, homosexual loving baby killer. That's what they're making him look like. And I don't like that.
Come on.
And it's about time we quit putting up with it. Like I said, we wouldn't put up with it if it was my wife or my child or my parent. I wouldn't put up with them saying that stuff. But we let them do it to Christ. It's time to speak up. It's time to rise up. It is time to speak up. It is time. I've heard this phrase before, and I wasn't sure I liked it, and I'm still not sure I liked it. I liked it, but it gets the point across. It's time for a radical Christianity. I don't mean go out there and go nuts and cause trouble and start riots and all that stuff. But it is time to get bold. It is time to get a backbone. It is time to get courage. It is time to stand up and proclaim the truth. It's time to stand up and give them the truth of the Word of God. I said here quite a few times that something doesn't happen here at this church without it. Well, I'm going to tell you something. The church is dying. The church is dying. Now, I believe God will always have a remnant. I do believe that. But it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And you know why it's getting smaller? Because nobody's doing anything to increase it. Nobody's doing anything to grow it. Everybody's just letting it go. Everybody's just letting whatever happens, happen. Yeah? In the beginning of the church, in order for the church to grow, in order for the church to take root, in order for the church to become what it was supposed to be, people had to sacrifice. People had to give of themselves. People had to be willing to, as Paul says in a lot of places, in a lot of ways, to give their life for that. If the church is going to continue, if the church is going to survive, if the church is going to be in the last days what is intended to be in the last